Our story begins with Xiaotou adjusting her stockings, complaining that her tight skirt makes it impossible to run for her life. Blushing, she asks Yizheng if wearing such a dark and flashy outfit is really necessary. She admits that it's great for moving around, but she feels completely exposed and embarrassed in this getup. Calmly, he assures her that it's the perfect disguise to slip away unnoticed, and asks if the bags are packed for their departure. He lists all the snacks he prepared, which reminds her that they're running for their lives, not going on a picnic. Then she proudly shows off the wedding dolls he gave her, treating them like her most prized possession. Impatient with the delay, he tells his companion to hurry up if she's finished prepping. Suddenly, memories from the past flood back, reminding him of when Yi Zheng was obsessively looking for a faction to join. An enthusiastic recruiter was offering spots in the Heiyuan sect, famous for their dual cultivation methods, which were full of hidden motives. Since the organization accepted recruits without checking for magical talent, he accepted the offer on the spot. His time training there was short-lived, as a conflict broke out and the group was branded as part of the evil faction. Lacking any influential mentors, the young man was sent to the front lines as cannon fodder without a second thought. Months ago, after being severely beaten in battle, he blacked out and was rescued by the kind peasant girl Zayat. While recovering his strength at her place, the reincarnated MC didn't even think about returning to the battlefield, preferring the peace of chopping wood. However, that serenity is interrupted when he detects a massive spiritual aura approaching their home. It seems the clash between the great factions has reached this region, proving no one escapes the claws of war. Terrified, Yizheng tells Xiaotou to pack everything immediately so they can escape under the cover of night. While fleeing through the dense forest, he reveals that he gave up magic just to grow old peacefully by her side. Moved by his confession, the girl blushes deeply. It's the first time she's heard such words from her partner. Holding his hand tightly, she agrees to follow him anywhere they decide to call home. As an unlucky reincarnated soul, the young man laments that his personal system always failed due to his lack of aptitude. Previously, he tried to join a guild of swordsmen, but was turned away at the door by a ruthless evaluator. Later, he tried to join a group of tough fighters, only to be rejected again because of his fragile build. Frustrated by the constant rejection, he even questioned the logic of living in a magical universe without any powers. Back in the present, a shout echoes through the woods, ordering the pair to stop running right now. Emerging and blocking their path with an imposing presence is Bai Ningbing, the feared leader of the Jade Maiden sect. One of the disciples recognizes the guy's outfit and asks the master if they should just take him out right there. Coldly, the leader instructs her subordinates to hold off for a moment. Without hesitation, one of the guards dashes forward and lands a heavy blow right on the MC's face. The force of the impact sends him flying, and he hits the ground hard, tasting the dirt. Looking down at him, the master offers to spare his life if he spills the secrets of his organization. Down and injured, Yi Zheng sarcastically replies that a nobody like him would never have access to top-secret tactical plans. Irritated by his backtalk, the silver-haired woman loses her cool huffs and decides to stop questioning him. Taking the opportunity to prove her loyalty, the blonde disciple asks for permission to finish the job, and the leader gives the green light. Terrified to see the blade raised, Xiaotou jumps in front, begging for mercy and vouching for her partner's character. The swordswoman responds with disdain, calling that show of affection pathetic coming from the rival's side. Without a hint of hesitation, the cruel subordinate lunges forward and runs her weapon through the peasant girl. The MC's world falls apart in an instant. His eyes widen as he watches the horrific scene. He screams her name at the top of his lungs, while her fragile body falls lifeless onto the cold grass. Crawling, completely dazed, the young man asks why they'd be so brutal to someone who wasn't even part of the conflict. Consumed by deep hatred, the MC glares at the assassins, demanding an explanation for involving an innocent girl. With total indifference, the attacker explains that any ally of the opposing faction must be wiped out. His only response is to gather his spit and launch it right into the face of that arrogant hypocrite. Enraged, Yi Zheng curses their twisted logic and says he'd rather go down fighting than work with such vile people. The insult is punished with a deep cut across the MC's face, delivered without a shred of pity. The relentless attack crushes his chest, splattering blood in a wildly disproportionate execution. Fading away next to his beloved, he curses those righteous faction members with his final breath. Wiping her blade with sophistication, the leader claims that extreme measures are essential to rid the world of evil. Piously believing in their own righteousness, the students bow and accept that cheap excuse for murder. Satisfied with the massacre, they fly off into the sky, leaving the bodies behind in the brush. On the verge of the end, the MC's mind swears ruthless revenge against Bai Ningbing, if he only gets another chance at life. Suddenly, a holographic interface flickers, issuing a warning that it detected an intense obsession and has initiated a data restoration. The scene shifts abruptly to a sunny day in a fortress belonging to a sect dedicated to earthly pleasures. Gasping for air, the guy wakes up in a luxurious bed, completely confused by his condition. Sitting up suddenly, he checks his own body, unable to understand where he is or how he survived such fatal injuries. His thoughts are interrupted by a soft female voice, celebrating the young master's awakening. A beautiful woman in revealing robes approaches the bed, radiating seductive maturity. She introduces herself as Feng Qingyan, mentioning that he almost needed to be cured by her intense methods. Holding his hands with intimacy, the veteran tells him not to push himself and happily announces their victory in the war. Excited by the news, she reveals that the unshakable Bai Ningbing tried a sneak attack but was defeated by their master. The veteran continues proudly, claiming the enemy faction was wiped out and their treasures were taken as spoils. However, Yi Zheng ignores the triumph, checking his body and panicking because he's magically alive and restored. Gritting his teeth, his thirst for revenge ignites his soul as he remembers the face of that silver-haired assassin. Determined to finish his revenge, he declares that since she's wounded, he'll be the one to send her to the underworld. Dressing in a hurry, the MC walks heavily toward the exit without looking back. However, his shoulders are wrapped by a pair of arms when the veteran grabs him from behind, ordering him to stop trying to leave. Using magical energy to pull him back, she whispers that his special treatment won't cause him any suffering. Exuding a dangerous aura, the woman guarantees that if he has to go out today, he'll be exhausted in the most pleasurable way possible. Sweating cold, the guy realizes the deadly threat, knowing his low level would be easily suppressed by that man-eater. Right at the height of his panic, a blue notification lights up the room, announcing that the personality correction system has been activated. Surprised by his unexpected salvation, Yi Zheng frowns, trying to process this sudden information. Reading the content, he tries to figure out how a system focused on behavior correction actually works. The long message explains that his mission is to tame and re-educate those who act with malice, promising rewards for every bit of progress. Without noticing the floating interface, the veteran pushes the newbie back onto the sheets, enjoying his useless resistance. As the woman prepares to act, the system highlights her status, marking her as the ideal candidate for re-education. Confused by his sudden change in attitude, Feng Qingyan asks why he's acting this way. Annoyed by the system's slowness, Yi Zheng curses the interface for showing up late and demands immediate action. At that moment, energy chains materialize from thin air and immobilize the veteran. Being pulled into a virtual dimension, the woman doesn't understand what kind of technique is being applied. In a panic, she begs the guy to stop it immediately. Watching the portal, the MC laments that if this help had appeared sooner, his beloved would still be alive. The grief over his loss tightens his chest, leaving him with a gloomy expression. With that resolution, he steps into the system's glowing rift. Walking into a dark, barred hallway, the guy tries to figure out if this place is an energy prison. The interface quickly notifies him that the cells are locked and require certain conditions to open. Already caught in the chains in a peculiar way, the veteran asks what artifact he used to trap her. Ignoring the prisoner, the MC focuses on the panel and asks how he can get his rewards. The guidelines indicate that taking out the target results in fewer points, while correction methods offer better prizes. Trembling with dread, the woman pleads for an explanation while the screen asks him to choose a path. The panel details that direct refinement will provide a strength bonus, leaving the young man thinking about his next move. Bothered by the silence, the prisoner shouts not to be ignored, while the screen informs him about the total conversion. Selecting his options, the guy weighs the valuable prizes he can win. However, he quickly realizes he doesn't have time for training games with the veteran. Determined to get stronger fast, the MC summons several energy blades to slice the target and guarantee the reward. Facing the imminent attack, she lets out a scream of desperation as she stares death in the face. Crying hard, the woman begs for her life, promising absolute loyalty if she's spared. The blades stop millimeters from her body, leaving the poor girl in shock. At that moment, the system emits an emergency alert, notifying them of people approaching in the real world. Without warning, the guy's consciousness is thrown back to reality for security reasons. Left alone in the virtual dungeon, the prisoner remains chained under the gaze of the swords. Relieved to have avoided the worst, she sighs upon seeing the system's progress bar show that half the process is complete. In the real world, the room's entrance is kicked open by an impatient cultivator, demanding reinforcements on the front lines. The intruder freezes, confused to find only the newbie standing there, and asks about the veteran's whereabouts. Taking a deep breath, the MC improvises a quick explanation. With total naturalness, he says the lady found a private spot to start some intense, isolated training. With no time for hesitation, the cultivator drags the newbie away by force, warning him that he'll just be serving as body count for the soldiers. Being carried through the air with the others, the MC tries to keep up with the pace of the magical movement. His companion clarifies that the group's goal is to surround and capture Bai Ningbing. After all, the swordswoman caused a huge disaster last night, taking out countless members of their faction. Hearing that name, the young man's blood boils with hatred, surprised by the opportunity to avenge his beloved so soon. Arriving at a dark canyon, an army of cultivators is already waiting for orders. One of the superiors orders everyone to line up and wait for the commander's instructions. Whispering among themselves, some disciples feel like they're just heading to the slaughterhouse. However, a more optimistic individual remembers that if they capture the enemy leader alive, they'll be able to enjoy her beauty as a reward. At that moment, a system alert pops up in the MC's mind, congratulating him on the success of the veteran's re-education. A rush of energy runs through his body, raising his cultivation level thanks to the prize. The guy next to him compliments the sudden progress, but the MC brushes it off, blaming combat adrenaline. Intrigued by the bonus, he reflects on how the prisoner gave in so easily, even without direct contact in the dungeon. The conversation is interrupted by a voice asking for absolute silence on the mountain. A sinister entourage of important figures appears at the top, and everyone bows in reverence to the arrival of the sect master. Boasting an intimidating purple aura, Zio Yeazi makes his presence known with all his power. Under pressure from the elder's heavy energy, the MC shrinks back with the crowd of disciples. With a serene gesture, the leader asks them to skip the exhausting formalities. The subordinates thank the sovereign's presence with great deference. Soon the veterans distribute mysterious pills, promising a significant boost in the troops' strength. Analyzing the small red sphere in his palm, the MC maintains his distrust. His colleague encourages him to eat it to fight, but the guy knows that in this faction nothing is given for free. From the top of the cliff, the master orders the start of the attack. Using a basic trick, the newbie pretends to swallow the pill but hides it in his cheek. The Supreme Master informs them that the prey is seriously wounded and won't last long. He guarantees that with a coordinated attack by the whole troop, victory is imminent. Obsessed with greed, the army advances, thirsty for the hunt. Under the influence of the pill's components, the background characters advance in a frenzy, fighting for the first contact with the target. Following the group of lunatics, the guy confirms his suspicion that the medicine was actually a trap. In the middle of the fog, someone shouts that they've located the target, confirming she's wounded at the edge of the canyon. Sitting and panting, Bai Ningbing seems to have reached her physical limit. Seeing the vulnerable enemy, the guy speeds up, swearing he'll lock her in his virtual prison. On the other side, the swordswoman feels deep contempt for the horde approaching her. When the henchmen jump to attack, she draws her weapon and releases a colossal wave of energy. Labeling the bunch as arrogant, the woman proves she still possesses considerable power. The manic look of one disciple fades as he catches a glimpse of the green light heading his way. The impact wipes out the front line instantly, slicing the background characters with ease. Hidden behind a rock, the MC watches, stunned at the massive power of the strike. Sweating cold, he realizes that charging in now would be suicide, given that the woman remains a lethal threat. On the battlefield, the mutilated bodies begin to inflate and pulse in a disturbing way. The swordswoman steps back, surprised, not understanding the phenomenon with the remains. A devastating explosion rocks the area, swallowing the woman in a violent shockwave. Unable to stay upright, she falls to her knees, exhausted. The leader discovers the hard way that the corpses were converted into bombs, releasing a pink mist. Coughing in the middle of the suspicious gas, the swordswoman realizes finally that she was lured into a dangerous chemical trap. One of the henchmen asks if they can reel in the net. Calmly, the Supreme Master asks for patience, ensuring that the explosion of bodies was only the prelude. Showing his cruelty, the old man explains that the real trap is the blood mist, infused with a stimulant poison. Amidst the pink smoke, Bai Ningbing starts breathing with difficulty, feeling the effects of that dubious chemistry. The swordswoman doesn't understand the cause of her body's sudden heating. Hidden nearby, Yi Zhang spits out blood, suffering the consequences of the earlier explosion. The young man deduces that the suspicious pill was meant to generate that love gas, judging the veterans of his sect as depraved individuals. Noticing a nearby presence, the enemy leader demands to know who is lurking in the fog. Without delay, she fires an energy attack at the observer, ordering them to stop hiding. Being thrown backward, the MC is recognized by the assassin, who shows surprise to see that the individual from the day before is still alive. Facing the enemy, the MC observes that his sect uses dishonest methods, which is perfect for leading her into his disciplinary system. At that moment, the interface notifies him that her hostility is at 50%. Noticing the threat, he decides he needs to annoy the leader to the maximum. Provoking her, Yi Zhang asks if the powerful master now only manages to take out her frustration on someone like him. He continues with the provocations, mentioning that her army has been reduced to dust, suggesting she surrender since she fears death. Furious with the insolence, the woman orders him to shut up and fires a brutal strike of green energy. Taken by hatred, she insults the guy, stating that his deplorable condition is the result of a previous betrayal. The swordswoman swears to eliminate the whole sect in the traitors, promising to start the purge by crushing that insolent insect. Firing a colossal light beam, she tries to send him to the underworld. The system warns that her anger level has increased but is still insufficient. Witnessing the magnitude of the attack, the guy's eyes widen, aware that the situation has become critical. With the impact, the energy tears through the mountain, throwing debris in all directions. However, after the blow, the woman's hand relaxes around the hilt of her weapon. Completely out of energy, Bai Ningbing falls to her knees, supporting herself only with the sword stuck in the ground. Watching from a distance, Yi Zhang clicks his tongue, frustrated that her hostility level still doesn't allow for capture. Silence prevails over the canyon, interrupted only by the sound of stone fragments falling next to the abandoned blade. Emerging intact from the curtain of dust, the MC walks calmly toward the beaten enemy. Completely perplexed, the leader questions where her strength went as the guy approaches slowly. The poison reaches its peak, leading the woman to complain of an unbearable heat, fearing she won't hold out. Surrendered to the effects of the pink mist, she starts breathing with difficulty, losing control of her faculties. From outside the cave, the elder observes that the target can't resist the poison and has started her own relief. The Supreme Master instructs the henchman to wait and let her suffer, intending to intervene later to apply his special treatment. While the villains wait, muffled screams echo from the depths, indicating the situation inside is critical. Thrown onto the stone floor, the enemy leader fights uselessly against the intense effects of the gas. Nearby, Yi Zhang takes advantage of the environment's energy density to meditate and focus on his own magical evolution. Opening his eyes, he celebrates that in just 1 hour, he's made a significant advance in his physical cultivation. Watching the panting woman, the young man realizes that her special magical constitution releases extraordinary benefits to those nearby. Having done nothing but absorb the local passive energy, the MC feigns ignorance about the embarrassing situation. Simulating being the victim, he argues that a newbie like him only passively accepted the pressure from a high-level warrior. Holding the woman dramatically, the audacious guy claims categorically that she was the one who forced him to participate in that experience. Hearing such an excuse, Bai Ningbing freezes, feeling hatred bubbling in her soul. Without thinking, the swordswoman's trembling hand firmly grips the hilt of her weapon abandoned on the ground. Radiating a green murderous aura, she asks if the miserable guy really thought he'd leave alive after taking advantage of the situation. Advancing with fury, the woman demands his life. Thanks to this, the system finally notifies 100% malice. The interface details the leader's impressive attributes, confirming she's a perfect target for correction. However, to the guy's despair, the system errors out due to lack of space in the prison, leaving him vulnerable to a lethal attack. Sweating cold with the blade near his neck, the MC orders the app to kick out the current prisoner to free up a spot immediately. Following the command, the portal spits out Feng Qingyan, landing her right in the center of the clash. Before the blade reaches anyone, virtual chains emerge from thin air and immobilize Bai Ningbing's body completely. Stretching his hand out urgently, Yi Zhang orders the system to capture the assassin once and for all. Unable to react, the leader of the righteous faction is swallowed by a blue glow, disappearing from reality. Already inside the re-education space, the MC breathes a sigh of relief for having escaped death by a hair. Confident, the guy celebrates, aware that his revenge will finally begin. The macabre environment reveals a wall full of torture instruments, giving a dark tone to the cell. Chained to a trunk, the woman struggles, trying to understand that bizarre place and why her magic isn't working. Walking calmly, the guy orders the prisoner to stop resisting, warning that he holds absolute authority over her life. Unwilling to accept the humiliation, she demands to know his true identity and how he got such a powerful technique. To intimidate her, Yi Zhang delivers a violent blow against the wooden structure, terrifying the woman. Holding the assassin's chin firmly, he warns that she gave up the right to ask anything under the current circumstances. Consulting the floating panel, the MC salivates upon noticing that training the leader guarantees absolute submission and a special fire ability. Facing the enemy's defeated eyes, he reflects that the rewards of that capture are extremely valuable. To ensure the maximum bonus, the guy's hand summons a leather whip prepared for the purpose. With a gloomy look, the MC decrees that hell need a lot of dedication to discipline that new rebel student. Upon catching a glimpse of the torture instrument, the brave leader loses her composure and begs desperately for him not to use it. Exactly at the moment of fun, a red alert flashes, informing of approaching intruders. Annoyed, the guy curses the interruption. In the real world, violent energy shatters the cave entrance without any ceremony. Stone fragments are projected, opening a path through brute force. Through the cloud of dust, the imposing silhouettes of the Supreme Master and his army invade the refuge. With a dismissive tone, the elder asks if the enemy fairy waited too long for his private rescue. Returning to reality, Yi Zheng sweats cold noticing the arrival of the command, feeling that his grave has been dug. Analyzing the scenery, the guy realizes that the only exit is totally blocked by the veterans. Without alternatives, the MC focuses all the reddish energy he recently obtained to fight for survival. However, the sudden effort makes him spit blood, showing that his organism still can't support his own power. On the other side, the leader orders the dispersion of the remaining mist, releasing a purple shockwave throughout the room. Upon seeing the environment, the group of invaders faces the peculiar scene on the cave floor. Trembling, a lackey reports to the elder that only a couple remained alive at the scene, leaving the master impatient for explanations. The subordinate informs, stuttering, that the woman on the ground isn't the target. Disoriented, the rejected veteran wakes up without understanding what happened. Enraged by the loss of the hunt, the Supreme Master loses patience and starts throwing swords at the girl, who flees screaming for her life. Fallen, the veteran observes a heavy boot beside her, while the elder insists it's impossible for the enemy leader to have escaped his net. Pulling the girl violently by the collar, the old man demands to know where the target hid. Desperate, she swears she doesn't have any information. Trying to mitigate the situation, an elder proposes a new sweep. At that, a colleague assumes the enemy might have been disintegrated in the explosion. The subordinate comments on the leadership's effort to capture the number one beauty. Hearing this, the poor woman on the ground doesn't understand the unfolding of the conversation. Suddenly, the Supreme Master bursts into a maniacal laugh in the middle of the cave. Facing the veteran, he asks how long the supposed fairy will keep up the disguise, ensuring that she doesn't fool his experienced eyes. Without warning, the elder rips part of the girl's clothing, making the situation very uncomfortable for her. Turning to the elder, the master asks if the subordinate hasn't yet noticed the genius of the situation. Pointing his finger at the girl, the commander decrees with conviction that that woman is the disguised enemy leader. The veteran tries to explain that she's just an ordinary disciple, while the group speculates if the master has gone crazy. Watching, Yi Zheng finds it comical that the old man is inventing his own narrative. The leader warns that denying it is useless and points to the MC, reminding everyone that one living witness remains. With hatred, the girl glares at the newbie, realizing that humiliation is his responsibility. Overcome by anger, she advances against the guy to settle the score. However, before reaching him, a purple bolt hits the veteran squarely. The elder accuses the fake enemy of trying to silence the witness. Holding the MC's face without delicacy, the master orders the survivor to wake up to reality. Immobilized by the chin, the guy opts for silence so as not to aggravate his situation. Coughing to put on a show, Yi Zheng thanks the elder for the fake concern. Next, the master orders the boy to report what happened in the cave. The newbie lies that upon entering, he witnessed the veterans exploding, leaving the enemy leader seriously wounded. Taking a dramatic pause, the cynic prepares the ground for his biggest lie. Without hesitation, he states that the assassin changed her appearance to resemble the veteran. The master laughs satisfied while the girl is chained up. The elder orders the removal of the fake prisoner, promising to subject her to intense training after the conflict. Being dragged away, the girl swears mentally to haunt the newbie. However, the guy just enjoys it, considering that a boost to her career. Sucking up, the elder praises the master's cunning and suggests a return to the military base. Suddenly, the supreme leader hesitates. He questions how the whole troop was reduced to fireworks by the pill while the boy remains unharmed. An inquisitive and scary look focuses on the MC's face. Sweating cold, the MC notes that his situation has complicated and requires a genius excuse urgently. Simulating pain, he alleges he ingested the pill, felt an intense burning, and immediately after was hit by the enemy, which would have forced the medicine to increase his strength. Analyzing the scenery, an elder confirms the guy really demonstrated a sudden increase in power and suggests a natural resistance to drugs. Taking advantage, the subordinate remembers that the alchemy sector needs a test subject. The master smiles with perverse intentions. Delivering a heavy blow to the boy's shoulder, the sovereign determines the survivor's fate right there. With a solemn tone, the master declares that the newbie is, from that moment on, his personal disciple. The young man is shocked by the promotion. Without losing time, Yi Zheng kneels in thanks, promising absolute loyalty. The elder laughs and orders him to stand up for the return to base. With his head down, the MC knows those men don't act without motives, but his absolute priority is to stay alive. Flying on their swords, the group cuts through the skies, leaving the cave in ruins behind. Upon arriving at the military base, they land directly in the main alchemy courtyard. The MC observes the giant cauldron in the center, feeling an extremely hostile climate. With a simulated expression, the elder informs that the master has already reserved a special task for the new disciple. The newbie notices the hidden malice. Keeping up the act, the guy asks for orders with extreme courtesy, while planning to flee at the first opportunity. The alchemist puts his hand in his robe, warning he won't hesitate to explore the boy's talents. Extending a palm full of suspicious spheres, the superior orders him to ingest everything promptly. The shock is evident on the MC's face. Trying to escape, the guy argues that his level is insufficient to consume such precious remedies. The alchemist mocks, asking if the test subject is scared. Facing the pile of pills, Yizheng finally understands that the title of disciple was just a front for laboratory tests. Stuttering, he tries to come up with another excuse. Without patience, the alchemist hits the table, questioning the truth of the immunity story. With a threatening look, the old man reminds him of the consequences of deceiving the leadership. The MC realizes he can't raise more suspicions. Accepting his fate, the guy takes one of the spheres, deciding to risk it. Excited, the alchemist orders the subject to consume it slowly so he can record the side effects. The guy is speechless in the face of the danger. With the old man watching fixedly, the MC desperately seeks a way to fake ingesting the poison. Exactly at this instant, a rumble shakes the building, terrifying the leader. A lackey runs in to report that the enemy faction is attacking the base with full force. The elder curses the impertinence of the timing. Taking advantage of the distraction, the guy suggests the master lead the defense while he continues with the tests. The elder agrees, ordering the disciple to meditate and calls the troop to the front. Alone, the MC lets out a sigh of relief, realizing the external war has become his ideal escape route. Examining the full shelves, he decides to loot the stock of precious medicines before leaving. To speed up the theft, the guy activates the system to release the enemy leader from the virtual space. In a flash, Bai Ningbing falls to the room floor, exhausted by the punishment suffered. The swordswoman breathes, relieved to have escaped that dungeon. Pulling the chains on her neck, Yizheng warns that she'll never free herself from his control. The woman swallows hard under the pressure. The MC orders her to separate the useful medicines and discard the harmless ones. The leader is confused by the unusual request. Indignant, she protests that she doesn't know how to organize supplies, as her subordinates performed such tasks. Pulling the leash, the guy orders her to drop the attitude and work. The powerful woman feels the humiliation of becoming a servant to a newbie. Spying on the place, the swordswoman notices a suspicious detail in the boss's hand. She realizes the guy is holding a specific pill with clear nervousness. With a sly smile, the leader deduces it's a powerful medicine capable of restoring her magic. While the MC examines a bottle, the prisoner cautiously approaches behind his back. With an agile grab, the woman subtracts the sphere from the newbie's hand, leaving him stunned. Without considering the consequences, the swordswoman ingests the medicine promptly. Turning around in shock, Yizheng asks if the mindless woman really had the courage to consume that. Watching his desperation, she smiles, convinced she obtained a great advantage by stealing the treasure. However, the euphoria ends when an intense pink energy explodes from her body, accelerating her heart uncontrollably. Sweating cold, the warrior realizes her terrible mistake in stealing someone else's supply. Agonizing with the rising heat, she notices that her magical strength remains blocked, but something worse has awakened. Totally blushing, the woman pants, recognizing the symptoms of that highly potent love chemistry. Watching the target's deplorable state, the guy is grateful he didn't consume the old pervert's. Trembling from head to toe, the leader can't take the pressure and grabs the sleeve of the MC's clothing. Defeated by the stimulant, the beauty begs suggestively for the guy to quench that unbearable heat soon. With irony, Yizheng remembers that the powerful leader was trying to escape minutes before, and asks if she really has the courage to beg for help. Surrendered by the situation, Bai Ningbing admits in a low tone that she made a grave mistake. Taking advantage of the edge, the MC warns that if she admits the mistake, she must prove it with a more submissive attitude. Shame overcomes the woman, who hesitates deeply before that demand. Won over by the chemistry heat, she begs for a real punishment, while the system notifies the progress of the correction and releases a reward. Laughing at another's misfortune, the MC mocks that the famous leader of the righteous faction now resembles a dog wagging its tail at his feet. In a final warning, he orders her not to disappoint him again, and the swordswoman swears desperately that she'll never dare to cross him. At that instant, the environment in the laboratory becomes so intense that the bottles start to vibrate and break on their own. After the effort, the guy sighs, complaining that the love pill's poison is extremely complex to neutralize. Waking from the trance, the woman insults the newbie, frustrated for having submitted to the enemy, while the system celebrates the success of the first phase. However, the argument is interrupted when the MC detects a strange noise coming from outside. The young man realizes promptly that the situation at the military base has changed drastically. Watching the chaos from the window, Yi Zhang comments, excited, that he didn't expect such a promising harvest amidst so much disorder. The interface confirms his suspicions, firing an alert of intense combat nearby. With that, the MC recalls a detail, noticing that the fortress remains under massive attack by the righteous cultivators. Without delay, the guy decides that external mess is the golden opportunity to abandon that terrifying place. Throwing clothes at the prisoner, he orders her to stop playing weak and prepare to flee together. However, before they can leave, heavy steps crush the rubble, indicating the approach of someone dangerous. Suddenly, the ground gives way, and the pair falls screaming into a dark hole. During the fall, the MC manages to cushion the impact, holding the woman firmly. Complaining of pain, Yi Zhang looks around and is surprised to discover a secret basement under the laboratory. Using his fire magic to light the place, the guy is shocked by the bizarre scene in the shadows. The place is full of righteous faction cultivators hanging, resembling a slaughterhouse of prison. Ignoring the danger, Bai Ningbing runs, desperate to check on her subordinate's condition. Welcoming a blue-haired girl, the leader cries with guilt, asking how her favorite student got into that state. Watching the drama, the MC recalls that those girls are from the rival faction, and mocks the speed with which karma collected the debt. The lament attracts the attention of the wounded girl, who wakes up upon recognizing the familiar voice in the dark. Upon opening her eyes, the student calls for her master with emotion, while the swordswoman confirms, relieved, that it's her disciple Xiao Lanjie. Trapped in a humiliating way, the poor thing can barely move to hug her savior. With a broken heart, the sect leader reaches out in a painful appeal for her battle companion. Coughing blood, Xiao Lanjie smiles, stating she always knew she wouldn't be abandoned. The second disciple guarantees with a choked voice that her master would never leave her to rot in enemy hands. Indignant at the cruel torture, the silver-haired woman understands that her student survived that nest of villains by a miracle. Making a quick inspection, the guy analyzes the prisoner and finds that her spiritual root was destroyed by the kidnappers. He informs coldly that the girl is one step away from death. The MC completes the diagnosis, revealing that she's about to be converted into a human magic battery by the veterans. Desperate, the leader begs the newbie to save her, promising anything, even knowing a powerful villain claimed the girl. The swordswoman confesses, hurt, that such a tragedy occurred because her oldest student made a dirty pact with the villains and betrayed her. In the memories of the combat, Xiao Lanjie heroically jumped in front of a lethal attack to ensure the master's retreat. Thanks to that sacrifice, the powerful woman managed to escape and hide in that isolated cave. Back in the present, the woman offers her own life as bargaining power, accepting to become the guy's property if it saves her student. Revolted, the wounded disciple scolds the master for humiliating herself before a villain, remembering that such species never keeps promises. Hearing the insults, the MC gets irritated with the prisoner's cheeky attitude. However, his face lights up when the system notifies the blue-haired girl as a new target for correction. Holding the swordswoman's chin with malice, the guy agrees to help, but clarifies that he only practices charity for members of his family. Whispering in the ear of his new trophy, he demands she proclaim for everyone who she belongs to now. That absurd demand leaves the wounded disciple incredulous before the villain's level of shamelessness. Without alternatives, the brave leader swallows her pride and shouts that she is officially the MC's woman. That declaration makes the student spit blood from hatred, drastically raising the malice in the guy's system. Pulling the woman's hair to force the situation, Yi Zhang orders her to admit the truth, and the poor thing assumes, crying, she's just his slave. The humiliation of her idol makes Xiao Lanjie flip out in the chains, challenging the newbie to act like a man and torture her instead of the master. Having fun with the useless loyalty, Yi Zhang returns the threats, remembering they tried to eliminate him in the past and the game flipped. Facing the prisoner closely, he swears that hypocrites like them need his re-education treatment. To provoke even more, the guy points to the defeated leader, mocking the fact that she begs for that sordid destiny. Frustrated by the slowness, the MC watches the system bar stuck, unable to understand why the girl's hatred hasn't reached the limit. However, the spectacle of villainy is interrupted when the dungeon ceiling explodes, reminding the guy that the war didn't give them a break. Among the wreckage, a team of righteous faction cultivators invades the basement, awakening hope in the disciple. A precise sword strike breaks the magical chains, freeing Xiao Lanjie, who falls heavily to the ground. Acting promptly, the MC raises a fire barrier to protect his hostage from the wreckage, ordering her to stay glued to him. The invaders face the horrifying scene of the trapped girls and are horrified by the macabre destiny reserved by the enemy sect. Assuming a heroic posture, Lin Si condemns the massacre and decrees the death penalty for the villains. Radiating a powerful green aura, the swordsman introduces himself as the main student of the righteous sect and swears revenge. Facing a giant energy blade aimed at him, the MC realizes that the confrontation will be severe and fighting alone is a fatal error. However, the attack is suspended when the supposed hero identifies the guy's trophy and recognizes the famous silver-haired beauty. A sordid smile appears on the hero's face upon deducing that the powerful woman lost her magic and is under the control of a weak newbie. Revealing his corrupt nature, he suggests to the allies that they could explore the warrior's vulnerable body. The wounded student is shocked by the proposal, while Yi Zheng sighs, impressed by the girl's naivety about her own faction. The other henchmen join the idea and stare at Xiao Lanjai with hidden intentions. Mocking the theater, the MC observes that justice is a mere facade and decides to use those fake heroes to raise the girl's hatred. Cynical, the MC offers a deal, promising to hand over both if they let him leave alive. The boss of the scumbags accepts promptly, judging the newbie smart for giving in, and orders him to stand guard at the door. Dividing the prize like merchandise, the fake heroes approach, making the disciples scream with disgust before such cowardice. Consumed by absolute hatred against her own faction, the girl swears to haunt them all and begins burning her life force in a suicide attack. The explosion of hatred takes the system to the limit, and the guy celebrates the efficacy of his psychological trap. Wrapped in a storm of blue flames, Xiao Lanjai loses control, becoming the newest trophy unlocked for capture. With the girl dominated, the MC receives the reward, a red sword called Bloody Fluid Light. Admiring the blade, the guy smiles and decides to test the new treasure against the fake heroes. Without offering time for reaction, he lunges like a lightning bolt, surprising the enemy. With agility, the MC delivers a fatal blow to one of the henchmen, spreading blood. The weapon sucks the vital essence, and the system notifies that it evolves by absorbing blood, leaving the guy excited. Facing the scene, the disciples panic before the powerful weapon, but the leader Lin Si orders a battle formation. Obeying, the warriors raise swords and activate a light barrier. Moving around them, Yi Zheng delivers fast attacks, impressed with his agility. He assumes the bonus derives from the new sword but notices a flaw. Suddenly, a shock hits his body, interrupting his rhythm. Panting, he notes that the energy absorbed from the blade has already been totally consumed. Noticing the newbie's fragility, the swordsman orders the team to modify the formation to pressure him. Joining forces, the warriors materialize a colossal energy sword over the MC. With a rumble, the attack crushes the ground, descending against the young man. The leader of the cowards smiles, doubting the boy's survival for long. Feeling the crushing weight, the MC spits blood, fighting to keep consciousness under pressure. The giant blade forces the newbie against the ground, threatening to split him at any moment. Mocking the misfortune, Lin Si orders the sidekicks to finish the job, preserving the valuable sword. Cornered, the MC is forced to kneel, unable to repel the formation's energy. Holding the weapon, he admits the group's technique is incredibly potent for beginner cultivators. However, at the height of despair, a delicate and wounded hand overlaps his, holding the sword jointly. Surprised by Xiao Lanjai's help, the guy conceives a brilliant idea: use his blood as fuel. Without hesitation, Yi Zheng cuts his hand on the red blade, activating the treasure's maximum power and shocking the enemies. Absorbing the essence, the weapon pulses with a demonic aura, ready for retaliation. Delivering an ascending strike with hatred, the newbie launches a scarlet wave against the righteous leader. Surprised by the flash, the fake hero freezes before imminent death. Sweating cold, the coward realizes the treasure is too powerful, and his chances of victory are zero. Trying to save himself, the swordsman backs off to flee, but the MC blocks the exit. With a gloomy look and bloody face, the MC warns it's too late for fleeing. In a brutal movement, Yi Zheng delivers a devastating blow, crossing the fake hero's body with his red. Being devoured by the blade, the leader falls screaming, incredulous at his defeat by a nobody. The guy breathes relieved, standing over the villain, proud of the victory in the arduous battle. Upon turning, he notes the blue-haired disciple standing, staring at him with intensity. With an ironic smile, Yi Zheng complains about the girl's ingratitude in wishing for the death of someone who just saved her life. The young woman returns with a cold look, ignoring the gratitude and focusing on her anger. Pointing a stolen sword amidst the fog, she prepares for combat, while the guy asks if such a lesson came from her master. Cold, Xiao Lanjai admits gratitude for the rescue, but warns that nothing changed between them. Advancing, the warrior exclaims that good and evil don't coexist, while the newbie sighs, foreseeing the betrayal. The MC blocks the strike without effort, cursing the Justice faction as a den of ungrateful snakes. Tired, he activates the capture command on the blue interface. Magical chains emerge from the ground and catch the girl in the air, forcing her to drop the weapon, perplexed by the bizarre spell. Facing the punishment options, the MC weighs the prizes of each route. The first alternative offers a pill capable of raising his strength level instantly, while the training route promises absolute domain over the student and a body focused on wood magic, leaving the guy intrigued. The description reveals that such a constitution grants domain over flora and drugs, transforming the user into a true master. Analyzing, the MC concludes amazed that the choice will convert him into an expert alchemist quickly. Decided, he grabs the prisoner's neck, while the girl struggles uselessly in the chains. With a malicious tone, the villain warns that he'd be an idiot if he killed her now, forcing the poor thing to ask his plans. Pulling the chains, the guy drags the girl close, ready to start intensive physiotherapy. Facing the woman, he flirts ironically, claiming a healing session will solve all her wounds instantly. Desperate, with no means to escape the chains, the girl cries and begs him to stop the madness. The effort to break the girl's pride registers a significant advance in the rebel student's correction. The reward is delivered and the guy's body radiates green energy, activating the new wood constitution. Displaying renewed vigor, the MC celebrates the disappearance of his wounds like magic. With satisfaction, he feels magic flowing through his veins faster, proving the bonus was profitable. Dressed and revitalized, the MC laughs, feeling he obtained a great advantage with the loot. Satisfied, he presses the holographic button to return the new prisoner to the virtual dimension. Watching the master and student icons, Yizheng smiles, anxious to tame that pair. The celebration is interrupted by tremors that indicate the war at the military base continues intensely. Watching the wreckage, the guy realizes remaining there is insane and decides to leave before the ceiling collapses. Running through the destroyed corridors, the MC invades the alchemy room, finding potions scattered. He freezes, confused, attentive to a specific odor in the area. Crouching, the MC collects a bottle for a more detailed analysis. Immediately, the system interface identifies perfectly every pill and powder stored. Laughing, the guy discovers he can identify the exact recipe just by the aroma, amazed by his new body's ability. Without hesitation, Yizheng starts to collect all the healing and stimulating potions. Excited by the theft, he mocks that the master alchemist hid a great treasure which now belongs to him. However, during the cleaning, he accidentally bumps into someone, feeling a dangerously soft impact and stepping back. Off balance, he asks who is in the dark, but a female voice hits back, asking who should be asking. From the shadows emerges Huang Tianmei, an exuberant veteran, asking what the thief intends with the stock. Putting his hand to his face, the guy notices an intense nosebleed and tries to blame the shock. But soon he widens his eyes, understanding that his blood boils only by the proximity of that woman. Sweating cold, the MC concludes he found the famous elder of the magical charm Absolute Physique. He recalls the gossip about the veteran, notorious for possessing a poisonous charm that no man resists without going crazy. Furious with the invasion, the woman demands to know who ordered the theft, while the guy tries to architect a means of escape. Trying to justify himself, Yizheng swears to Huang Tianmei he is the elder's new helper and was only protecting the medicines. Pointing to the hole, he lies, alleging an attack of 3 invaders he needed to repel to defend the stock. Suspicious, the veteran lets out a sound of doubt while she analyzes the boy closely. Finding the story poorly told, she mocks the impossibility of a newbie defeating 3 warriors and attributes the success to luck. At that instant, feeling a strange heat, the guy realizes the woman started to use her charm and tries to resist. Enveloped by purple smoke, the MC struggles not to give in to that temptation. Impressed by the newbie's control, Huang Tianmei compliments his calm, while he responds with false modesty. With the intent of testing the boy, she fires an energy bolt against the alchemy cauldron, demanding proof of talent. The attack hits the huge pot, preparing the equipment for a new recipe. Keeping up the challenge, the woman states that creating mid-level pills should be trivial for the helper. Facing the cauldron, Yizheng realizes the veteran cornered him by demanding an advanced recipe. However, thanks to his new body blessed by plant energy, the guy notes a real chance of success. Watching the boy, Huang Tianmei notes, surprised, that the energy around him changed in seconds. Curious about the result, she wonders if the newbie really will succeed, while green flames envelop the guy. Concentrating his power, Yizheng summons the sacred alchemy fire and orders the flame to rise. Using his energy, Yizheng heats the cauldron with green flames to start the refining. While the fire intensifies, the guy selects the herbs under the veteran's gaze. Scavenging the rubble, he notes, disappointed that the traditional ingredients were reduced to ashes. But with a confident tone, the guy knows that improvising a formula with what's available won't be a problem. He selects 3 exotic plants, mixing special leaves with fire sunflowers for a new effect. Preparing the components, the MC introduces the plants into the cauldron in precise order. As soon as closed, the bronze cauldron shines intensely with the herb's mystical energy. Concentrated, the guy knows he needs to control the green flame temperature with maximum care. Watching, Huang Tianmei finds the choice of plants strange and questions if the boy is faking it. Upon fixing his eyes on the fire's glow, the young master celebrates in silence the recipe's success. A green explosion bursts from the cauldron, dispersing light throughout the room. Driven by the heat, several energy spheres ascend toward the ceiling. Floating in harmony, 8 formed pills attest to the success of that improvised recipe. Holding the high-level pills, Yizheng celebrates the feat upon glimpsing the golden glow of the new medicines. Paralyzed by surprise, Huang Tianmei swallows hard and faces the pills floating before her face. Examining, the guy notes that the medicines possess supreme quality, exhibiting rare mystical energy marks. Incredulous with the skill, the veteran questions how Elder Wu trained such an exceptional student in secret. Delivering the pills, the MC suggests going to the front to assist the wounded warriors. However, with an ironic laugh, the woman warns that that won't happen, leaving the young man confused by the direct answer. Without conversations, the girl grabs him by the arm using purple energy bands to immobilize the newbie. At that moment, a colossal explosion projects both outward, and the veteran warns they are already in the middle of real combat. Coughing amidst gray smoke, the guy tries to clear his vision while he stands up with difficulty from the ground. But despair takes over upon seeing the old Elder Wu fallen and defeated, without signs of life. A mysterious warrior appears imposing, stepping on the wreckage, facing the pair with superiority. Introducing himself as the third Elder Bailey II, the invader mocks their weakness and warns the veteran is the only one remaining. Upon feeling the pressure of the very strong enemy, Yizheng backs off, cursing his bad luck for encountering such a monster. Mocking the warrior of the Justice faction, Huang Tianmei comments that with such bloodthirst he doesn't look like a hero. With a grumpy tone, the brute replies that, against members of the rival sect, it's necessary to use maximum brute force. Approaching, the girl argues that the conflict occurs only because of the sex and doesn't require fighting to the death. While she activates her dangerous charm, the veteran throws a seductive look and asks docilely if the old warrior doesn't agree with her. Falling for the pickup line, the brute starts babbling nonsense with his eyes shining in pink tones. Watching, the MC is surprised to see that her seduction power manages to dominate even such a powerful warrior. With the spell active, the veteran uses her perfumed energy to dominate the mind of the righteous faction invader. At that, demonstrating docility, the veteran celebrates that now they can maintain a friendly dialogue and resolve the dispute without violence. But a metallic rumble interrupts the romantic mood when a sharp blade is drawn in the stone hall. Holding the girl's weapon with empty hands, the warrior questions laughing why she supposed they'd send a weakling to hunt her. Ripping his own clothing with fury, the big guy shouts that any carnal temptation only hinders his sword. Displaying his armored chest, the brute reveals he removed desire from his heart so as not to be seduced by the rival's tricks. Watching the theater, Yizheng makes a face, shocked by the extreme insanity these heroes subject themselves to. Retreating, Huang Tianmei warns that breaking the spell doesn't mean his victory in the mortal combat. Firing a pink energy blast, she tries to hit the big guy, but the attack bounces off his skin. Activating his forbidden iron body technique, the invader channels golden power to shield his muscles against any blow. The veteran's attack hits his skin with a metallic sound of a shield, proving the man's body became a wall. Advancing with fury, the brute warns that his brute force is superior and that her tricks lost effect. Delivering a heavy blow, the warrior projects the beautiful girl far away with a brutal impact that destroys the ground around. Collapsing on the ground, the veteran spits blood and loses her weapons after suffering an overwhelming counterattack. Upon noting the critical situation, Yizheng draws his red mystical sword and decides to retreat promptly. Driving his greatsword into the earth with force, the brute invokes a secret technique to block all canyon exits. Giant chains with imprisonment seals emerge from the rocks, creating an impassable magical barrier around. Laughing at the guaranteed victory, the big guy celebrates that the glory of purifying the enemy base will be credited to his name. Completely immobilized by the red chains, the beautiful warrior bleeds and notes that her magical power was blocked. Being chained, the guy gets irritated, complaining that those lunatics fight and involved him in such a situation for free. To free himself from the prison, the MC focuses his energy on the red blade and prepares to deliver a cut. He attacks the ties with several fast strikes, but the blade only rebounds with a metallic sound without leaving marks. Mocking the attempt, the big guy mocks that a weak newbie would never break an advanced-level barrier. At that, upon raising his giant sword with pride, the executioner promises that after slicing the veteran, he'll use the boy's blood to consecrate his weapon. Cornered and without strength to escape the prison, the MC asks desperately if he'll die again so soon. Suddenly, his gaze falls upon the golden advancement pills he recently refined and keeps in his free hand. Realizing it's his last card, he decides to risk everything and force a mystical level advancement in the middle of battle. Without hesitation, the boy consumes the pills all at once, under the veteran's disbelieving gaze. Watching the situation, Huang Tianmei notes that all the local spiritual energy is being absorbed by the boy, about to level up. With mockery, the brute Bailey too asks if the boy really supposes reaching the Foundation establishment level is enough to defeat him. Without losing time, the brute jumps with his sword to interrupt the process, ensuring he won't let the young man evolve. However, a block prevents the villain's blow, making the weapons collide with a strong metallic impact in the air. Knowing her charm failed, the veteran focuses on buying time, rooting for the MC's advancement. Feeling the mystical barrier breaking, Yi Zheng realizes the path to the next level is free in his mind. But he notes that brute force is insufficient, needing an adequate combat technique to employ all that power. In his mental prison, the boy awakens the two prisoners and demands the teaching of a high-level sword technique. With pride, the young student refuses the request, ensuring Shed never help a member of an evil sect. At that, the young man lets out a sound of distrust, planning to utilize his methods to convince them to cooperate, one way or another. Activating the correction system, he makes the chains glow, starting an uncomfortable thermal shock session on the leader. Desperate upon witnessing the master's suffering, the student screams in anger, while the guy warns hell use force if they persist as rebels. Unable to take the pressure, the leader pleads for him to stop, promising to teach the secret technique, while her progress reaches 20%. Absorbing the manual's secrets, the MC focuses on the ancient words about mental control and perfect union with the blade. With that, the guy's eyes shine with scary golden energy, demonstrating he assimilated the secret technique successfully. A golden lightning explosion hits the ground, while the guy stands with an intimidating aura before the surprised villain. The system confirms the boy's advancement to the first level of Foundation establishment, releasing a wave of power in the cave. Shocked by the magnitude of the spiritual pressure, the veteran asks if an initial evolution should cause such impact. Taking advantage of her distraction, the brute advances and delivers a heavy blow, insulting the girl for losing focus in combat. With the impact of the cutting wind, the veteran is hit on the seam of her clothing, suffering a light cut that forces her to back off hurriedly. However, the villain's smile fades when a pink energy beam pierces his chest, catching him off guard. On the ground, the veteran uses her last strength to guide the magic attack, focusing on neutralizing the brute. Feeling the energy pierce his iron body, the big guy cracks his armor and lets out a grunt of pain. Taken by fury, the warrior screams and forces his muscles to expel the pink energy stuck in his chest. The brute swears to eliminate everyone, while the guy's system grants a new sacrifice ability as a reward. Analyzing the description of the power that burns one's own blood to confer a bonus for a second, the guy concludes it's more than enough. Advancing, the executioner brings his golden greatsword down to crush the boy with his destructive attack. With a smile, the protagonist activates the forbidden sacrifice technique, preparing his body for the counterattack. A storm of red flames explodes around him, stopping the brute's blow with absurd pressure. Concentrating all his new strength, the young man initiates the first form of the secret technique he learned from the leader. Feeling the red energy tear through the air, the big guy tries to dodge but notes belatedly that the blow is too fast. Delivering the final cut, the boy channels the sword's cutting wind to slice the impenetrable defense. With the devastating impact, the brute is projected far, breaking the magical chains he himself created. Panting and without strength to fight, the veteran watches the scene, shocked by the power level released by the newbie. Kneeling and spitting blood, the villain demands to know how a simple boy from the rival sect knows the secret technique of the righteous faction. However, the big guy is unable to conclude, feeling his strength fade while he loses consciousness. In his final thoughts, the warrior notes that such a destruction level is absurd for someone who just evolved. Unable to resist the wounds, the brute's body collapses lifeless on the destroyed mountain. Watching the enemy fall, the veteran relaxes, relieved for having escaped that monster by luck. With the caster's death, the magical chains undo themselves, freeing the girl who falls to her knees, still unable to believe the victory. Facing the young man standing in the middle of the dust, she questions how a newbie at level 1 eliminated such a powerful elder. Coughing blood, the boy realizes that not even his new wood body heals the wear of the forbidden sacrifice. Without strength to remain upright, the protagonist falls to his knees, with his vital energy zeroed after the Approaching, the charming veteran uses her healing magic and warns, with a docile tone, that the boy really captured her attention. The scenery shifts to the majestic peaks of the Xuanling sect, where the peace of the temple is about to be definitely broken. Running through the palace corridors, a disciple exclaims something terrible, searching for the supreme leader. Irritated by the lack of manners, the sect sovereign demands explanations, asking about Elder Bailey's whereabouts. Sweating cold, the guard reports with terror that the soul blades of the elder and the leader's great-grandson extinguished suddenly. Upon receiving the tragic news, the Supreme Master's face reveals shock and fury upon realizing the loss of his lineage. Channeling mortal hatred, the sovereign makes the environment tremble with his extremely destructive red energy. With a scary smile, the leader shouts that it's excellent, letting his assassin aura explode through the hall. Grabbing the messenger by the collar, the boss demands to identify the author of the massacre, and the subordinate stutters that everything occurred in the enemy temple. Back-turned, the sovereign curses the Haeyuan sect for having reaped the life of his precious relative and his best warrior. Activating a communication portal, the leader swears to make the rival faction pay with rivers of blood for that unforgivable offense. Emerging from the shadows, a mysterious hooded counselor advises the master to keep calm so as not to ruin his own training. The master asks if he should simply swallow such humiliation, and the subordinate guarantees they won't leave the act unpunished. Revealing an unsettling face, the second elder Yin Buping suggests a fake truce to attack the rivals off guard. Thoughtful regarding the treacherous strategy, the sect sovereign agrees in secret through a discreet mental message. Laughing with disdain, the hooded elder praises the leader's wisdom, who approves the surprise attack plan promptly. But before dismissing the ally, the sovereign warns there's one more ultra-secret task to be resolved immediately. With a bloodthirsty look, the supreme leader orders infiltrated spies to act to hunt down and eliminate the assassin of his great-grandson. Bowing, the evil counselor guarantees that the boss' orders will be fulfilled with rigor. With that, a secret message is sent to the heavens to alert the traitors hidden in enemy territory. Night falls over the Haeyuan sect's military base, where the calm hides imminent dangers. Supporting the exhausted boy, the charming veteran orders her students to reinforce the defenses, since the attack stopped suddenly. One of the disciples offers to carry the wounded boy, but the veteran refuses promptly, preferring to care for him personally. Whispering in the corridors, the girls find the boss' interest in the newbie strange and comment on the danger of that exclusive treatment. Transporting the protagonist to her private quarters, the veteran closes the door to initiate the care, far from curious eyes. With a mysterious smile, the veteran sighs, excited to notice the interesting secrets that young newbie hides. While the gossips envy the boy, the prisoner considers it all a tremendous idiocy. Lying on the spacious bed, the boy has his clothing opened by the veteran, who decides to investigate the recovery of her new assistant's body. Leaning in with a seductive look, the veteran warns she will investigate minutely all the mysteries the boy hides. Touching his chest with affection, she lists the doubts about his rapid evolution, the mysterious sword technique, and that pleasant aroma of plants. Activating her ocular charm skill, the veteran tries to invade the boy's mind to rip the answers by force. Feeling his head throb with the mental invasion, the protagonist fights against the spell while the system fires red danger alerts. Feeling the pink magic invade his body, Yi Zheng realizes the veteran searches his secrets utilizing the art of charm. With a malicious smile, the woman warns the treatment isn't over, but the system alerts he can't capture her due to lack of hostility. Sweating cold, the boy knows he has many cards up his sleeve and can't allow that curious woman to discover his past. Without delay, his consciousness dives into the system's virtual space to collect a favor from his prisoners. The MC demands the leader teach that exclusive cultivation technique for women, making the swordswoman question the reason for such madness. Cutting the dialogue, he orders her to teach promptly and she accepts, guaranteeing that if he desires suicide, there's no problem. The forbidden technique focuses on energy exclusively feminine. In case a man tries to practice it, the result promises to be catastrophic. With a confident smile, the protagonist plans the dangerous trick of inverting the energy flow of his own body. Satisfied, he thanks the leader for providing exactly what he needed to escape that pickle. Alone in the virtual space, the swordswoman doesn't understand anything, questioning if the jerk intends to commit suicide. Back in reality, the veteran celebrates that there's little left to discover all the newbie's secrets. Exactly at that instant, Yi Zheng activates the forbidden technique with maximum intensity, releasing powerful blue aura. Surprised by the sudden climate change, the woman widens her eyes upon feeling a wind in the room. Totally confused, she notices that the boy's vital energy circulates in the opposite direction. The trick causes a violent rebound effect on the veteran, forcing her to interrupt the game immediately. Coughing, the young man feels the weight of his own trick, seeing that forcing the body in that way is never free of costs. Despite the internal damage, he celebrates the plan's success, relieved to have blocked the woman's dangerous curiosity. However, upon looking correctly at the veteran, the boy realizes the spell caused a short circuit in her mind. In an aggressive grab, the woman advances against him, spreading pink energy. Dominated by her own charm, she presses the newbie, asking with a melty voice if he considers her beautiful. Pressed, the MC curses mentally, realizing the magical rebound transformed the veteran into a predator. While he tries to calm the boss' spirits, mysterious figures land silently on the temple roof. The masked invaders use a magical tracker and confirm that the target who toppled the Justice Master is down there. Impaneling the sword in anger, the group leader promises to descend and eliminate the enemy immediately. But the sidekick holds the boss' arm, asking for moderation. The subordinate warns there's an aura of absurdly high level, and that the woman possesses a deadly mystical physique. Worried about the mission, the individual questions if the leader guarantees finishing the job without awakening the monster in the room. Analyzing the situation, the boss agrees that the veteran won't remain for long with a weak newbie, deciding to just wait. Positioned on the roof, the spies contact the rest of the team. The plan consists of attacking in conjunction as soon as the woman leaves, confident that 4 elite warriors will liquidate the boy. Dominated by her own magic, the veteran sighs and surrenders to the heat of the moment. Without giving a chance to flee, she presses the young master against the sheets in an imposing way. Sweating cold, Yi Zheng is impressed by the danger that woman's special body hides. But pulling his own clothing, he decides to take advantage of the storm to harvest magical benefits. Utilizing the room's chaotic energy, the boy focuses on cultivation and advances to the 4th level, considering that a blessing. Feeling the boy's power increase, the girl lets out a whimpering sigh with the sudden oscillation of energy. Maintaining the predatory posture, she compliments his abilities and asks, provoking, if he desires to really play with danger. Watching the critical situation, the newbie tries to maintain calm so as not to make fatal mistakes. Faking innocence, he apologizes and swears he didn't intend to offend, but the woman warns it's too late to back off. With a piercing look, she demands to know what the next step of the smart guy will be. Laughing nervously, the MC asks if she desires him to assume the responsibility, concluding that having that protection wouldn't be bad. Holding his face with affection, the woman warns the boy has no notion of the pickle he got himself into. She laments her own luck, questioning if he supposes that a veteran lives calmly only with the strength she holds. The girl reveals the truth, explaining that almost all women with her magical body end up converted into spiritual batteries for others. With a melancholic look, she asks the boy to guess which big boss has watched her for a long time. Connecting the dots, the young man gets it right. The culprit is the sect's supreme master. The boy's look becomes serious upon understanding the wasp nest he got involved. The veteran questions if he finally understands the size of the disaster caused by that intimacy. With an ironic smile, the boy realizes her worry was losing her magical power and having to give explanations to the boss. Turning her face, the girl tries to disguise the frustration with her complicated situation. Resuming the posture, she decrees that the mistake was made and now they need to solve that mess. Holding his chin again, she flirts, saying that at least sharing energy with a handsome boy didn't leave her unsatisfied. Massaging his temples, the protagonist feels that woman was born with the natural gift of destabilizing his judgment. With a poor guy face, he warns he'd love to protect her, however his current level doesn't even scare the guards. Pulling the boy into a hug, she ignores the excuse and orders him to continue assisting in her cultivation, since time is short. Outside, the team of assassins remains immobile on the roof, in mortal silence. The sidekick complains about being there for 6 hours, and the sun already peaking on the horizon. Irritated, the boss orders to wait 2 more hours, guaranteeing that in case the target doesn't leave, they will invade the room by force. But time flies and the day dawns calm at the temple, illuminating everything. Stretching her tired body, the veteran complains about the newbie, joking that he has no idea how to treat a woman. Suddenly, the woman's sharpened perception captures strange movement outside. Watching the moon withdraw, she criticizes the base's failing security, classifying the guards as useless for allowing the entry of rats. But a smile excited appears on her face, judging that unexpected invasion came in handy. She decides that if the newbie can't clean his own trash, he doesn't deserve to remain with her, while the boy meditates intensely. Opening his glowing eyes, Yi Zheng awakes from his deep concentration after the night training. He celebrates the advance to the 5th level, feeling 1 step closer to facing the sect boss. At that, the room's ceiling collapses when the assassins lose patience and invade the place, destroying everything. Surrounding the target, the invaders declare that the boy is lonely and that the revenge will be collected now. Watching their attire, the protagonist recognizes promptly the lackeys of the enemy faction. Impaneling his red sword, the MC smiles excited by the chance to test his new strength. Analyzing the enemies with tranquility, he notes their high level and judges the challenge arrived at the exact moment. Covered by explosive scarlet aura, the boy advances against the group, guaranteeing the fun will be perfect. The violent clash of weapons lifts an energy wave that destroys the wood floor around. With the defense's impact, the fake heroes are pushed violently by the newbie's brute force. Displaying a look of mockery, the young man criticizes the assassin's slowness, demonstrating the game flipped in his favor. The brawl occurs with the protagonist delivering heavy blows and spreading his red aura while the assassins try to retaliate. Holding the magical sword, Yi Zheng notices the blade absorbing all the blood spilled and activating its evolution process. Noticing the weapon's thirst for battle, the boy notices the progression reached 30% and needs more vital essence to complete itself. Coveting the boy's treasure, the leader of the invaders warns the sword is high level and orders the lackeys to create an attack formation. Advancing with focus on the target, the masked boss swears he won't allow the newbie to act as he pleases. With a clean and brutal cut, the bloody blade lacerates the aggressor's chest, who lets out an absurd scream of pain. Seeing the leader at a disadvantage, the other two sidekicks remain perplexed and call for the fallen companion. Enraged with the partner's defeat, the subordinates insult the MC and attack while the sword reaches half its evolution. Promising to avenge the partner, the pair finishes the hand seal to activate the mortal formation. A dark magical aura with dark claws emerges from the ground, surprising the boy with the size of the spiritual trap. Evaluating the energy, the protagonist recognizes the Justice faction's technique and mocks the hypocrisy of those fake heroes. At that, his mind visits the system's virtual prison, where Xiao Lanjai remains chained in a compromising way. Straight to the point, he warns he will free the girl so she takes out some enemies, but the woman refuses to help a villain. To break the stubbornness, the guy delivers a shock to the girl's master, making the poor thing scream while tied in an unusual way. Facing the student with coldness, the MC warns she doesn't possess the moral to negotiate and orders her to fight in the real world. Completely blushing from shame, the prisoner accepts the order but demands some clothing before leaving in that way. In the blink of an eye, the girl emerges in the real world wearing a tight suit, yielding a beautiful advance in training. As a reward, the boy's body glows intensely, gaining an insane improvement in magical affinity with the wood element. Confused by the green light, the masked ones increase the formation's strength, without understanding how the target wasn't devoured by the trap. Without effort, Yi Zheng deflects the enemy energy using only his blade's pressure. Taking advantage of the opening, the young man delivers a full-blown attack against one of the righteous faction's sidekicks. The impact is so absurd that the background character is split in half in a brutal scene of bloodbath. Walking calmly, the protagonist warns their fun has ended and now it's his turn. Sweating cold, the last lackey realizes that facing the assassin of the young master was a terrible mistake. Desperate, he begs for help and tries to encourage the fallen boss, swearing there's still hope. Rising from the ashes, the wounded leader states the mission can't fail, and the sacrifice of all won't be in vain. Burning his own essence, the masked man activates an extreme technique that raises his power to an absurd level temporarily. Displaying scary speed, the villain advances demanding the boy's life, who barely manages to raise the sword to defend himself. Concentrating energy in his fist, the leader delivers a devastating punch directly on the newbie's improvised defense. With the rumble, a massive wind explosion sweeps the area, destroying everything around. Confident in the power, the masked man compliments the boy's resistance, stating that fighting on equal terms is already a great feat. Without rest, the warrior resumes posture and departs for another mortal investment. But the boss stops upon noting the target disappeared and demands the coward stop hiding in the shadows. Coughing blood, the leader understands too late that the boy only delayed for the sword to feed itself. Exuding gloomy aura, the protagonist celebrates the weapon's maximum evolution, gaining a devastating demonic technique as a bonus. The fake hero compliments the kid's claw, but the guy just returns an assassin look of someone who already won. Preparing a magic sphere, the justice warrior guarantees his armored body won't fall easily. Totally consumed by scarlet power, Yi Zheng assumes a scary posture, ready to slice the enemy. Firing the light beam with full strength, the boss orders the boy to go into the air once and for all. Cutting the wind, the MC swings the blade and invokes the new power that totally ignores enemy defense. A giant red energy skull swallows the scenery, descending like a hungry demon over the target. Terrified, the big guy invokes a sacred amulet quickly to create an impenetrable golden barrier. However, the justice hero's face contorts in pure terror upon noticing his magical shield won't contain that impact. Surviving by a miracle, the boss spits blood amidst the smoke and starts laughing at his own destiny. With a zombie appearance, he laughs, judging that the newbie exhausted his magic but doesn't notice the student emerging behind him. In an agile grab, Xiao Lanjai cuts the boss' throat with a clean strike of green energy. Literally losing his head, the villain widens his eyes and recognizes the famous warrior of the rival sect in his final breath. With the body falling, the protagonist compliments the girl's work and orders his sword to devour the snack. Grotesque tentacles emerge from the blade and start to chew the remains in a macabre way. Taking advantage of the calm, the woman of curvy attractions demands the guy free her master immediately. The system confirms an advance in training, and the boy strokes her face, reminding her that both are magical batteries under his care. Bothered by the response, the girl stares at the newbie with a mix of anger and disgust. Suddenly, a luminous stone jumps from the dead enemy's body, but Yi Zhang intercepts quickly with a clean cut. The tracking artifact is sliced and loses all its glow, falling on the courtyard's destroyed ground. With a provoking smile, the warrior warns the little villain's life will become a true hell. She explains the stone transmitted the fight to the Justice faction, and that now he is the #1 target. Maintaining calm, the guy agrees that that's a problem, but recalls the leak is also terrible for the prisoner's honor. The woman goes into shock upon him, detailing that the great prodigy student became a nobody's maid in the eyes of the world. The swordswoman's stubbornness disappears, and she insults the MC for utilizing such a low argument. Holding the woman's chin with intimacy, he orders her to lower the tone and remember who commands the relationship. The fight is interrupted by a guard who enters the courtyard, desperate, warning about an enemy attack. Right behind, the veteran Zhao Kui and his soldiers emerge confused, asking how invaders entered. Amidst the confusion, the newcomer's eyes lock on a peculiar presence beside the protagonist. Recognizing the famous warrior, the guard chief stares at the young man and the MC returns the look with mockery. Foaming with anger, the veteran accuses the newbie of theft, remembering the woman was captured by the master to serve as a magic battery. Splurging arrogance and dirty with blood, Yi Zhang suggests that the man worry about the external war instead of pestering. Losing patience, Zhao Kui grabs the boy by the collar, demanding he stop changing the subject. Exchanging deadly looks, the veteran orders the newbie to hand over the prisoner or suffer the consequences. Instead of backing off, the protagonist's hand silently crushes a scarlet cord to prepare an explosive surprise. The power wave pushes the aggressor while the MC mocks, wanting to see the tough attitude in practice. Noticing the danger, one of the soldiers tries to warn the boss that the climate isn't favorable for internal fights. Ignoring the warnings, the leader orders the team to silence while a green light crosses the confusion. The brawl is interrupted by a powerful female scream, demanding everyone stop the clowning. Walking with authority, the veteran Huang Tianmei enters the room boasting striking curves in a dangerous outfit. Demonstrating submission, the guard lowers his head and tries to incriminate the newbie, inventing that he stole prisoners. With that, Yi Zhang accuses the rival of negligence for allowing the entry of spies, and trying to incriminate him cowardly. Intervening, the powerful Huang Tianmei declares that valuable treasures belong to those who possess real strength to keep them. At that, she confronts the corrupt guard for facilitating the enemy invasion and trying to prejudice a sect colleague. Cornered by the veteran's authority, the man kneels, begging for forgiveness and admitting his gross mistake. Without patience for drama, the woman orders him to clean the invaders' bodies immediately. While the rival retreats defeated, the protagonist observes the enemy's humiliation in silence. But the guard moves away puffing with hatred, promising mentally that that humiliation hasn't ended. Seeing his expression, Yi Zhang smiles from the corner, making it clear that he'll love observing what he tries to perform. Shortly after, the veteran and the prisoners gather in the silent hall to discuss the next steps. Watching the beautiful Xiao Lanjie, the woman comments that the guy is excellent at hiding high-level treasures. However, she warns that to hold a valuable toy, it's necessary to possess sharp teeth, and the young man agrees. Approaching his neck, the seductress warns in an intimate tone that she also functions exactly in that way. She retreats, ordering that the guy rest, since important work awaits him tomorrow. Alone in the room, the blue-haired prisoner tries to start a conversation timidly. Embarrassed, the girl thanks him for the help, admitting the terror of becoming a toy of that trashy guard. Suddenly, the system's blue screen notifies that the girl's submission reached 60%, granting her a regeneration technique. Finding it funny, the boy comments that the student is much more accessible than her tough master. Meanwhile, far from there, the climate becomes tense in the rival faction's temple with the news of the defeat. Hitting the table, the faction leader yells upon knowing that his 5 elite guards were eliminated. Taken by fury, the Supreme Master shouts against the incompetence of his soldiers. He continues humiliating his guards, labeling everyone as useless trash due to the failure in a simple mission. The sovereign demands to know how high-level warriors were defeated by beginners. Trying to calm the spirits, the masked counselor asks him not to lose his head. The ally projects the recording of a magic stone with the final moments of the battle in the cave. The image reveals the young master utilizing his bloody sword to butcher the invaders' leader. Next, the screen focuses on the blue-haired disciple's face, identifying her as a traitor. The counselors debate that, even with help, a common newbie would never defeat so many elite guards. Pointing to the hologram, the masked man warns that that red sword is a spiritual treasure of the highest level. Amazed, the sovereign asks about the guy's true identity with the demonic weapon. The counselor concludes with certainty that the boy can only be the mysterious and powerful holy son of the rival sect. With that, the assessor explains that everything makes sense, seeing that a secret heir would always walk very well protected. The sovereign agrees, remembering that the enemy faction usually hides its successors behind 7 keys. At that, the masked counselor kneels, congratulating the master, who remains confused regarding the reason for the celebration. He explains that knowing the secret heir's identity offers the perfect advantage to set up a fatal ambush. Thoughtful, the leader asks if he will need to move personally to clean the mess after losing so many soldiers. The ally guarantees it won't be necessary, suggesting utilizing the next martial arts tournament to eliminate the boy. Satisfied with the evil plan, the master delegates the whole operation to his faithful counselor. The sovereign summons the whole righteous sect to order the ceasing of all attacks against the enemy. He swears to make the rival heir disappear in a humiliating way during the great sect competition. Meanwhile, far from there, Yi Zheng sneezes strongly in his silent room. Scratching his nose, the guy wonders about a cold, considering his elevated cultivation level. Decided to ignore it, he resolves to activate his new forest regeneration technique to test the effects in practice. Meditating, the young man channels the energy of the plants, feeling the power of nature flow. The magical energy spreads, covering the wood furniture with a glowing green mist. Under the spell's effect, an old chair starts to sprout leaves and gain life. Scared, the boy realizes that the technique doesn't only absorb energy, but drains the strength of the plants in a relentless way. With a sharp look, he decides to explore the limits of that mysterious power. The green energy assumes mystical shape in the air, channeling the vital essence accumulated by the environment. The MC notes, impressed, that he can utilize the spell to extract energy from any living being with the forest element. Amazed, the prisoner accuses him of utilizing forbidden arts, but he counters that that is the reward for taming her. At that, the system notifies that the technique functions better if practiced in a pair with someone of wood elements. Connecting the clues, the protagonist notices he possesses the perfect training partner before him. Without loss of time, he pulls her close to start the spiritual exercise session of high yield. Whispers that she needs to assist him to practice the method, leaving the girl with no reaction before the audacity. The lights turn off while the pair engages in the most intense mystical gymnastics of their lives, under candle light. Hours later, the girl rests exhausted, after so much effort in that peculiar training. Celebrating, Yi Zheng feels his power ascend again thanks to the method's success. Covering herself with the sheet, the girl swears that he will pay dearly for subjecting her to such exhausting humiliation. Holding her chin, the boy asks her to observe her own body before complaining. To the swordswoman's astonishment, a green aura envelops her, revealing that her destroyed magic started to return. He explains that it's not a simple cure, but a magical fresh start that will accelerate the recovery if they continue training. Raising the girl's face, the boy makes it clear that she needs him to reacquire her strength. Thinking of her master's well-being, the student swallows the pride and focuses on strengthening herself as fast as possible. Surprising the boy, she pushes him on the bed and declares that one round of training will be insufficient. Assuming the lead of the exercises, the girl demands to continue until recovering all her power. The next day, the sun rises radiant, bringing new challenges to the sect. Knocking on the door, the veteran Huang Tianmei collects the presence of the young man, remembering the important day's commitments. Upon opening the door, she freezes upon glimpsing the chaotic scene of sheets in the room. Displaying lipstick marks, the protagonist smiles yellow, swearing to have spent the night meditating. Not convinced at all, the veteran yells furious for him to get up and leave immediately.